This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good evening, everyone. After hearing such a wonderful introduction, I can hardly wait to hear what I have to say. I want to tell you a story. There was a Jew who lived in a small village in Eastern Europe, and his goal in life was to have a son. And when his wife conceived and was pregnant, so he went to the Hasidic Rebbe near the town, and he said to him, I'd like to have a son. Maybe you can give me a kameya, a sgula, something to guarantee that my wife will have a boy. So the Rebbe told him, listen, go out and buy a rooster and cut off the comb of the rooster and grind it into a powder. And I'm giving you a parchment, and you wrap it in the parchment, and she should wear it for the 9 months. That's the sgula. So he did as he was instructed, and naturally his wife had a girl. So he came back to the Rebbe, and he told him that his wife had a girl. So the Rebbe said, what color was the rooster? So he said it was a white rooster. He said, oy vey, you got the wrong rooster. You should have got a brown rooster. So now he went out and he got a brown rooster, and he went through the whole process again, and 9 months later she had a girl. He came back to the Rebbe again. So the Rebbe said to him, who did you buy the rooster from? He said, I bought it from Cohen. He said, no, you should have bought it from Levi. Oy vey, you bought it from the wrong person. So now he went out and he bought a brown rooster from Levi, and he went through the whole thing again, and as you can imagine, he had another girl. So he came back to the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, who was the sheikhet? So he said, Klein was the sheikhet. He said, oy vey, you had the wrong sheikhet. It's not Klein, it's Gross. You should have been the sheikhet. So he went out and he got the brown rooster, and he bought it from Levi, and he had the sheikhet Gross do it, and she had a girl. So he came back to the Rebbe, and he told him, and the Rebbe said, oy vey, you went to the wrong Rebbe. So maybe you have the wrong Rebbe here tonight, I'm afraid, but Rabbi Goldwicht asked me to come and ein mesarvin the Gadol. The Navi Yeshayahu records for us that he has a vision and he is in heaven. V'eres Hashem Yoshev al kisei ron v'nisa v'shulav mleim ha'heichol. Perek Vav in Yeshayahu. And the Navi says, V'eshma, all of a sudden I hear a voice. I hear a sound. And the voice says, Esmi eshlach umi yelech lonu. Whom shall I send? And who goes for us? Mi yelech lonu. Who goes for us? And the Navi answers, Shalcheni, send me. I accept the mission. The Rebbe of Kotsk says that all the voices that are mentioned in Chumash and in Tanakh, so that's Kol Godol V'lo Yosef, that voice never stops. You just have to turn on the right frequency. But the voice is still there. We read in Ovos, B'chol yom v'yom baskol yotzeis ma'ar chorev. Every day the voice of Sinai is heard. The only thing is you have to have the right frequency to hear it. So here also that voice, as mi yeshlach u'mi yelech lanu, is heard in every generation. And it's heard in every circumstance. And it should be heard by every Jew. Whom can I send? Well, whom can I send? I'm busy, don't send me. U'mi yelech lanu. And who will go for all of us? We know people that go for my group. They go for Jews that look like me. Mi yelech lanu. Who goes for all of us? Who cares about all of us? In our generation, Rabbi Noah Weinberg represented mi yelech lanu. He used to always speak about the fact that we are undergoing, God forbid, a second Holocaust. Jews destroy themselves. They're unaware who they are, what they are, why they are. The Mesilas Yesharim begins with 4 words. Rabbi Moshe Chaim Litzato, Ma chovas ha'odom ba'olomo. What in the world am I doing here? What am I supposed to do? If one can answer that question, then life has meaning. If one cannot answer that question, then life is a vale of tears. Moshe Rabbeinu is walking in the desert. He has fulfilled the dream of every yeshiva student. He's working for his father-in-law. And he's a shepherd. And he comes by, in the desert, a bush. And the bush is burning. Again, the Kotzker says. The Kotzker has a whole process of how to look at psukim. So he says, the bush was not burning for Moshe. The bush was burning all the time. Everybody saw the bush burning. The only thing is that everybody's busy. Hey, look, the bush is burning. Yeah, it was burning yesterday too. And that's interesting. But people have carpool, and they have their businesses, and they have their families. So, all right, so the bush is burning, it's burning. Moshe, what makes Moshe Moshe? We don't know what yeshiva Moshe went to. We don't see any spectacular spirituality from Moshe in the way that Torah records his early life. He's raised in the house of the Pharaoh. He's a murderer. He's a wanted criminal. So he's the man. In today's world, you wouldn't do a shidduch with him. So what makes him Moshe? So in the Pasuk it says, Vayomer Moshe said, Asura novo eres amare hagodol hazeh, madua lo yivar hasneh. I'm going to stop. Asura no, I'm going to turn from my usual daily norm, and I will like to see why the bush is not consumed. And then the Pasuk says, Vayar Hashem kisor liros. God saw that somebody stopped. Somebody noticed that there's a bush that burns and is not consumed. The one who stopped, Vayikro elav malach Elohim mitoch hasneh, From that bush, God called unto him and said, Moshe, Moshe, you're my man. I got a job for you. Now Moshe's not interested in the job. Shlach no bi'atishlach, send somebody else, not me. Why me? I remember I came to Yerushalayim, I don't know, 40 years ago, whatever it was, and I made the error of asking a Jew on the street a certain address, where it was. And he said to me, there are 100,000 Jews in Jerusalem and you got to stop me? Not me. Shlach no bi'atishlach, send somebody else. So what does God answer him? So again, the Kotzker says a tremendous insight, one that applies to each and every one of us. Why was Moshe called Moshe? Who gave him that name? According to Divrei Hayomim and the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Moshe had 7 names. Yered, Tuvia, Yekusiel. He had beautiful Hebrew names. Moshe, according to the Even Ezra, is an Egyptian name. Kimiramayim Mishisiyu, the Even Ezra says that's an Egyptian verb, incorporated into Hebrew. So Moshe is like Jeffrey. Why didn't God call them by his Hebrew name? Why doesn't he call them by the name that Amram gave him at his bris? And the answer is because Moshe was thrown into the Nile to be eaten by the crocodiles. And ki min hamayim ishisihu, and I saved you from the crocodiles. I took you out of the river. So don't tell me you're not going, because you were saved for a purpose. You know, there's a museum here in Yerushalayim, Yad Vashem, with the Holocaust Museum. One of the buildings in the Holocaust Museum is the Children's Museum. There was a Jew by the name of Spiegel, Hungarian Jew. Later he settled in Beverly Hills, became a very wealthy man. He and his wife and his 6-year-old child went to Auschwitz in the summer of 1944. Their child did not survive. He survived and his wife survived. They had another family. They moved to America. They made a lot of money. The American dream. But all of his life he's haunted by the child that did not survive. So he gave Yad Vashem, I think, $9 million when $9 million was money. And they built this museum. And the museum is to 1.5 million Jewish children under the age of 12 that were done to death in the Second World War. A whole generation that we don't have. That's why our world is so skewed, because of the holes that exist within it. And so I knew Spiegel, and I was in Yerushalayim the day the museum opened. So I said to myself, I'm going to go and I'll see what Spiegel built here. And I came in, I don't know if you've ever been there. If not, you should be there. You should visit. You walk into a room maybe 3-4 times the size of this room, tremendously high ceiling, pitch black. You cannot put one foot in front of the other unless you hold on to the railings, because it's so dark. Yomesh choshech. But after a few minutes, as your eyes become adjusted to the darkness, you notice there are small pinpricks of light, like stars in the ceiling. And there is a voiceover, a tape that plays. And the tape does nothing but recite names. Shimon Greenberg, 3 years old, Kovna. Hannah Cohn, 8 years old, Warsaw. names, 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 until you can bear it no longer. And as I literally ran out of the room into the blinding Jerusalem sunlight, I thought to myself, for the first time, my name is not on the tape. They meant me, I'm of the age. My name's not on the tape. If my name is not on the tape, then I have a certain responsibility to try and do what I can. The Pontifical Rebbe told me, you have to try and rebuild the Jewish people. So we can rebuild it in many different ways. Every person according to one's talents, ability, to the blessings that the Lord has bestowed upon them, to have a family, to have children, to strengthen Torah, to strengthen Eretz Yisrael, to realize the miracle that's here. Hasnei nenu ukol. The bush has not consumed. The whole world would drown us in a teaspoonful of water. And the whole world revolves about us. There's no other problem in the world that bothers them. Nothing else matters. So if I can be an actor and not just part of the audience, I can do something, then we have to do it. Each one according to one's own abilities, talents, and blessings. I want to conclude by telling you one more story, which to me is really my basic story in life. The story is so popular that other rabbis use it, some with attribution and some without. When I was 11 years old, shortly after the American Civil War, the Jewish world was destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. I cannot describe to you what it was to live in the 1940s and early 50s. Every family had lost vast chunks of the family in the Holocaust. The land of Israel, the state of Israel, was very precarious then. There was nothing to eat here in the country. I mean, you can't realize what has happened here in 70 years. It's if you stop to think about it, how can you not believe? I mean, they were so poor here. I remember my father used to send a certificate to my aunt in Tel Aviv, and she would go to the warehouse and pick up a package of food. And that's how the family survived. So the late, great Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog, who was the chief rabbi then of Palestine. When I went to public school in Chicago long ago, the non-Jewish kids, we were the Palestinians. They used to holler at us, "Go back to Palestine." So I don't know how we lost that appellation. So Rabbi Herzog came to Chicago to raise money on behalf of the orphans and the widows and the yeshivot, what was left of the Jewish world. So I remember my father was a distinguished Rav in Chicago. He took me to the airport in the morning. We were going to go welcome Rabbi Herzog. It was the first time in my life I ever was at an airport, ever saw a plane head on, so to speak, and those were the good old days. You could walk out on the tarmac with no security, nothing. And I remember Rabbi Herzog came down the stairs, that great silver beard with the Litvische top hat, and he had in his right hand a rabbinic cane with a silver handle, and his left hand he had a Tanakh. He was aristocracy personified. And we all went to the yeshiva, and he delivered a Talmudic lecture in the yeshiva in Yiddish. I even remember the topic, an Ein Shliach L'Dvar Aveira. It made such an impression upon me. And then when he finished the shir, after about 45 minutes, he said, I want to speak to the young men here in the yeshiva. We were about 200 young men. It wasn't just Chicago. It was St. Louis and Indianapolis and Minneapolis and Detroit. And it was the whole Midwest. That was the only ball game in town. And there were 200 from the age, I was the youngest, I was 11 in the yeshiva, till guys that were 25. And he said as follows. He said, I have just returned from Rome. And I gave the Pope of Rome, who was then Pius XII, I gave him a piece of paper, a list. And on the list were the names of 10,000 Jewish children who were sequestered in Catholic institutions during the war in order to save them from the Germans. And I asked him to please give me back the children. And the Pope told me that he would not do so, because anyone that was brought into a Catholic institution was immediately baptized. And once one was baptized, it could not be given to be raised in a different faith. When he said that, he put his head down on the lectern and he wept. I had never seen a grown person weep that way again in my lifetime. The whole 2,000 years came out of him. And then he raised himself like a lion. And he looked around the room and he said, listen, I cannot do anything more for those 10,000 children. But what are you going to do for the Jewish people? What are you going to do to rebuild the Jewish people? And later on, when we all went over to shake his hand and receive a blessing from him, I remember I was a child, I don't know why he even bothered with me. And he said, did you hear what I said? Remember what I said. Don't forget what I said. So I've been a Rav, Baruch Hashem, 60 years for the Jewish people. They're very tough people. Not easy. I was a Rav Miami Beach. My shul, the Orthodox shul, was on one corner. Kitty corner was the Reform temple. And I was friendly with the Reform rabbi. I helped him out on certain things. He helped me raise money for the Miami Masifta then. We had a clandestine relationship that none of the members of our shul knew about. But I remember once, we were in a moment of levity. I said to him, Leon, I'm jealous of you. He said, you're jealous of me? Why are you jealous of me? I said, because you've got a temple full of goyim and I got a shul full of Jews. It's hard. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Masachem, Torchachem, Rivchem. If we wouldn't be a hard people, we wouldn't be here. So there are days that you want to give it back, right? What do I need it for? What do I need somebody to tell me he liked the speech, he didn't like the speech? What's it your business? But I always hear Rabbi Herzog in my ears. I've heard him for over 70 years. What are you going to do? And that message has not changed. Just as the burning bush has not changed, just as Miyeshlach Umiyelech Lonu has not changed. Ma'chova Sodom Bolomo. In our time, it's to save the Jewish people and build it. That's what Aish Torah is attempting to do. And it should be strengthened, and it should be blessed for the efforts, and it should be encouraged, and the Lord will help that it will continue its success, and we'll be zoche together to good and great days. Amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.